So I want to end now. You've been very patient. I've taken you through quite a lot of economic and also scientific ground. And I haven't minced any words, and I've been very detailed about it. But this is a moral issue for our generation. How do I know? Because he says so. And he is right. It is a moral issue. It is a moral issue when a climate panel deliberately tampers with data and forces every number towards the extreme so as to multiply by approximately 7 the true warming effect to be expected from CO2 concentration. That is a moral issue. It is a moral issue when it abolishes the medieval warm period, when it knows perfectly well that there was one. That is a moral issue. When it also says that you can put railroad lines on top of a stochastic data set and pretend that therefore the rate of warming is increasing when you know perfectly well that it isn't, and that's a bogus technique, that is a moral issue. And when you take a paper such as that by the honest Pinker, and you mention it in your document, but you write around it and fail to draw from it the very obvious and extremely simple conclusion that we have drawn, that is a moral issue. But above all, if you impose policies on the world which lead to the starvation of millions, that is a moral issue. But this is, thank God, Australia. Who is the world's friend to whom everyone turns in need? Australia. To whom do the Pacific nations and the little atolls turn whenever they need help and whenever they know that they will get that help? Australia. To whom did we turn in Britain when we faced Hitler and all the hideous slaughter of the Second World War and we were threatened? Australia. To whom did the people of South Korea turn when they needed help against invasion from the north? Australia. To whom did the people of South Vietnam turn when they needed help against invasion from the north? Australia. To whom did the peoples of the world turn when Saddam Hussein bid fair to take over all the world's oil fields, starting with Kuwait? Australia. Always, always, when the world needs help, it turns to Australia. Now these little African children, with their hopeless, hopeful eyes, they turn to Australia as I turn to Australia. And they say to you, as I say to you, about this entire climate nonsense, enough is enough.
Thank you. I'm pleased that you're as delighted as we, the organisers, are that Christopher Monckton has come to Australia and certainly has drawn enormous audiences. And I must say I'm delighted that the audience has fitted into this room and we haven't had to resort to turning people away or using overflow facilities, because this is so much better. I guess I should have introduced myself. My name's Case Smith. I'm one of the 2 retirees that took the step of inviting Christopher to come to Australia. I'd now like to invite just a few questions. I'm afraid we don't have a lot of time. Yes, sir, with the blue shirt.
Lord Monckton, a very entertaining and witty speech. I've, over the last 3 years, been studying the scientific journals. I look at Nature, I look at American science,
Yes.
etc., etc. And I've seen a very different picture of the science than you have. I'm sure you've seen both sides of it because you obviously are very concerned about this and look at all of the science. However, you have presented one side of the debate. You haven't, you have of course cherry-picked your scientific papers. But I don't want to sort of go into some particular detail of your science because we could debate that all day.
Question?
The question is...
Yes, please.
Sorry, the question is, if you'll allow me, the question is simply this. You have...
No question.
Sorry, the question is, what if you're wrong? If you are wrong, we could be delaying action on climate change.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
What
you.
if you're
That's a
wrong
good
is
question.
a good question. Thank you.
Now that is an entirely proper question.
Yes.
And the first answer is this, that if you don't put in an ETS, it will have precisely zero effect on the climate compared with if you do put in an ETS. Because the ETS, even on the admission of your government, will not make any difference to the climate. So that's the first thing. Now the next thing is this. If closing down the entire world economy for 41 years would only forestall 1 Celsius degree of temperature increase, it's not an enormously difficult math to work out that if we did nothing for 10 years to see whether or not global warming, which has been absent for 15 years, resumes, then the worst that would happen, if you push the numbers as far as you possibly can, would only be that we would have not prevented over those 10 years 1/4 of a Celsius degree of warming. We have therefore got plenty of time to take stock and check out the science rather more carefully. In the light of the more or less daily stories coming out from the IPCC, regardless of what it says in Nature and Science, the IPCC has now admitted in the person of a lead author of one of its chapters that he made up and inserted what he knew was a wrong figure for when the Himalayan glaciers might melt because he wished to influence government policy. We have discovered that Greenpeace activists and Worldwide Fund for Nature reports have been used as the basis for what are supposed to be peer-reviewed results and plainly are not. We have seen the ClimateGate emails where there has been a clear criminal conspiracy to fabricate data and then to try to destroy it so that nobody could find out. And it is quite clear from all of those things that before we spend a single penny of your taxpayers' money, of your money, on anything whatsoever to do with trying to mitigate a global warming that hasn't been happening for 15 years, the first thing we should do is pick up what the farmers of Australia are calling for, which is an independent royal commission to investigate the entire sordid business.
Thank you.